All right, welcome to the demo portion of the class. So we have been talking about edges, and here's a drawing that I hope will be a good example of that for you. In this drawing, what I'd like to do is focus primarily on what's happening in the features. You can see the edges have been pushed and pulled, sharpened and loosened all over the image. And we'll take a look at that, but we'll also zoom into the features. So I did an initial drawing for you, construction drawing, as you're very familiar with by this point. And so now we can dig right in and we can go into the value construction and how those values render form and how that form is rendered with a sense of depth and a sense of artistry through the use of edges. Remember, hard edges tend to come forward, soft edges tend to recede in space, your eye tends to be drawn to contrast. Edges are specifically edges because they contrast, and your eyes are not so much drawn to lower contrast or softer or lost edges. There's so much opportunity within that to design your portrait, to guide your viewer's eye, to make your portrait about something, to look at the subject and say to yourself, this model is so fascinating, so interesting, the hair, the sash, the features, the light, the shadow. I'm going to get that down on the page. I'm going to guide my audience, whoever cares to take the time and look at my portrait. I'm going to take them right to the point. I'm going to have them look right at the face. I'm going to have them move around the image. I'm going to design the way they move around the image and perhaps have them come right back to the features as opposed to being distracted by incidentals that might accidentally happen on the outskirts of the drawing. As the captain of the drawing, as you know by now, I like to say that I always like to call you the captain of the ship. So put on your captain's hat and turn on some music and become that, because as captain of the ship, you get to decide what's interesting about your subject, and you get to decide how your viewers and audience will respond to your image. So I'm starting out here in the usual way. I'm quickly laying in my darks. I'm quickly putting in the features, and I want you to keep an eye on how simple this is for me. I'm just hitting those darks, not getting too lost in all kinds of little tiny nuances and little tiny variations. I'm just doing the big simple darks that make the eyes the deep recesses, blocking those in quickly and simply. If it's in shadow, deep shadow, I hit it. If it's not, at this point, I don't. Simple is the name of the game here. So I'll let you just kind of watch as I quickly block in these shadow shapes. And I'm using a Pitt soft charcoal pencil here. And you'll notice everything I'm doing at this point is shadow, because I don't mind saying a bit, I'm not necessarily the brightest bulb in the universe. I've got to keep things simple. I've got to be organized. And by, in this case, primarily working in the shadows, keeping them organized and grouped, it gives me the opportunity to establish that simple statement about the character of my subject, what she looks like, and you see how big and simple I'm being with these shapes. At this point now, as I'm blocking in these big shapes, I'm being very aggressive about it. I've been careful enough, and you see I'm zooming out here because I'm doing big, long, direct strokes. So I'm zooming out so you can see as I compositionally work down the image there. This is a piece of our alpha color compressed charcoal, and I've been careful enough with my drawing. I'm confident that it's close. I'm sure it's not a perfect drawing, but I am sure it's close enough to be direct. I have the luxury of laying in these big strokes. I'm also thinking a little about composition here. We in fact are going to specifically discuss in detail composition on the last day of the class to put the finishing touches on our portraits after we've thoroughly explored form, shadow, and features and likeness and so forth. We'll wrap up with portrait composition. But to give you a little sneak peek, I'm interested in one long line falling across her form, from the back of her head down her neckline, and then down the line of the shirt there. That's going to be my compositional thrust. I'm not going to put all kinds of busyness down in the lower left-hand corner, and I'm not going to put all kinds of busyness up in the upper right-hand corner. More, it's going to be a top left movement down to bottom right movement. It's going to have I hope, a nice sweep to it.